Hi there, I'm George Michell, amateur musicological sleuth, obsessed with tracking down the influence of Johann Sebastian Bach on composers and musicians since his day to ours. It's an amazing story of 250 plus years of transmissions, transcriptions, and transformations, and it's still going on. No other classical composer of the past, whether it be Mozart, Beethoven, or Wagner, has exhibited such long-lasting magnetism, captivating the imaginations of so many later artists. It's a long and fascinating story, and I plan to tell some of it in this series of podcasts, each of which focuses on what I'm calling the afterlives of one of Bach's famous works. In this, the fourth of my Back to Bach podcast series, I'll be focusing on the elegiac air on the G string, as well as the bopping Badinerie, originally for flute solo. Both are movements from Bach's 4 orchestral suites. The works date from the time when Bach was providing instrumental music for the entertainment of his princely and ducal employers. Later in life, after he shifted to Leipzig, where he was responsible for music in the city's Protestant churches, he organized concerts in local coffee houses, much to the enjoyment of the city's cultured music lovers. And it was for this newly emerging middle-class audience that Bach repurposed what he called his overtures. We call them suites, since they consist of groups of stylized popular dances together with lyrical melodies resembling arias sung by sopranos in the opera houses of the day. In the third suite, Bach included an air, a wistful melody played by the violins, while in the second suite he offered a vivacious French dance for a solo flute, which he called a Badinerie. After Bach's death, the manuscript of the suites languished in the State Library of Berlin until around 1870, when a German violinist, August Wilhelm, came across them when searching for a solo piece by Bach he could play in concert. Selecting the air, which Bach had written in D major, Wilhelm transposed the music down an interval of a fifth so he could play the whole of it on the bottom G string of his instrument. Thus was born the air on the G string, which, since then, has delighted audiences with its heart-rendering melody emerging out of a sustained note carried on a descending octave played on the lower strings. Here are its opening bars, played as Bach had intended by a string ensemble. Here it is again, played on the G string by Fritz Kreisler in an early recording of the 20th century, so forgive the background noise. Thus was launched the air on the G string throughout the 20th century, and many musicians responded to it. It even spread to jazz musicians, as we can hear in this performance by the Swingle Singers together with the vibraphone and piano of the Modern Jazz Quartet. The Jacques Lussier Trio also had a good run with Bach's Air, especially in 1966, when their version was taken up by Benson and Hedges in a TV campaign to promote a new brand of cigars. As protagonists sought relief from humiliating situations, Lussier's soothing version of the opening bars on the plucked bass and piano is heard in the background.
If we sail on Columbus, we shall fall off the edge of the world.
Nonsense. The world is round.
Captain! The edge of the world!
Happiness is a cigar called Hamlet, the mild cigar from Benson and Hedges.
Pop musicians like the crossover Dutch band Exception, I think this is how it's pronounced, also took on the air, paying respect to Bach via electric guitars and keyboards in this 1969 recording. Not content to repurpose the air in their own acoustics, some pop musicians used Bach to launch their own lyrics and melodies, the most famous of all being Procol Harum's 1967 A Whiter Shade of Pale. The song begins with Bach's descending bass line on a plucked string bass, upon which emerges the haunting melody and hallucinatory lyrics that made the group famous with what has been described as the best British pop song of all time. At this stage, let's return to the lyrical quality of Bach's Air by listening to the aria from the fifth Bachianas Brasileiras, one of a series of 9 compositions that Haita Villalobos wrote between 1928 and 1945, in which he investigated ways of reconciling Bach's music with the melodies and rhythms of his native Brazil, hence the name he gave to these 9 pieces. This exquisite, wordless aria, recorded in 2008, has the soprano Renee Fleming soaring effortlessly over an ensemble of 8 cellos. As in Bach's instrumental air, she begins with a long, sustained note that progresses to a heartfelt melody carried on that familiar, plucked bass line. In striking contrast to the leisurely, unfolding beauty of the air in the G string in these various incarnations, let's now turn to the vivacious Bardinerie from the second orchestral suite. It begins like this, as Bach wrote it for the flute. Vocalizing the flute part of the Bardinerie proved irresistible to the Swingle singers. As you can hear, it's a virtuoso performance for the principal soprano. So far, we've listened to several different instrumental and vocal arrangements of the Bardinerie. Here now is a musician conducting Bach's melody into the realm of a jazz improvisation. The performer is the Romanian-German pianist Eugene Cicero, known for his effervescent technique. Here he is, propelled by plucked bass and urgent percussion in his 1989 Swinging Bach album. I hope you've enjoyed these explorations of the possibilities inherent in two of Bach's most popular instrumental works. If you want to hear and learn more, you need only tune into the next episode.